Look at that. It's the new Subaru Forester, looking as rugged and practical as ever. It's like the hiking boot of cars, driven by adventurous people who probably think weather like this is awesome. So what we're going to do here in this review of the Forester range is find out if it's all just looks. We're also going to look at its practicality, and what's under the bonnet, and how safe it is, ownership costs, the price and features, fuel economy, and what it's like to drive. Now those are the time codes right there. Feel free to flick through it, just find what you want. And if you're watching on YouTube, down there are the chapter markers as well. Now if you want to read the full review, go to carsguide.com.au and give us a like and subscribe. The new Subaru Forester looks just like the old one, but that's because it's not really new. It's just a few updates. You see, when the PR people say the changes are subtle, you know they are subtle. So there's a redesigned grille, redesigned headlights, bumper, and fog lights too. See, here's the old one, and this is the new one. It's still rugged and practical looking with that bulgy bonnet and wheel arches, the chunky roof rails and side skirts, and the big windows, and it's all over boxiness. The Forester is 4.64 meters end to end, which is about your thumb's length longer than a RAV4. There are new colors: autumn green, brilliant bronze, unhappy blueberry, and cascade green. No, there's no unhappy blueberry, it's just cascade green. The Forester we have here is the top of the range 2.5i S. We'll get to the rest of the range in a moment, but for now, let's go inside. Not much has changed in the Forester's cabin. It's still a feast of layers and textures. Now, the cabin of the Forester is not pretty. It's pretty busy. I mean, just have a look at this. There are over 50 buttons in this cabin alone. The steering wheel is covered on them, and it's buttons underneath them and down by your knee. There's a screen at the top here for your fuel economy, the angle that your car is on, the wheels that are doing the driving, your fuel economy, and down here you've got the media screen for what's playing. The only thing that's simple really are the climate control dials, but everything else is really over the top. We're talking over the top. The textures and the layers of the materials that are used is intense. I mean, it can be all summed up by this door. Look at it. You've got some type of rubber material here which feels like it's off a amphibian. You've got this plush material here. You've got plastic, hard plastic down here. It's just a mess. Do you want to talk money? Let's talk money. The Subaru Forester range starts with the 2.5i. It steps up to the 2.5iL, and above that is the 2.5i Premium. There's the 2.5i Sport, the 2.5i S that we have today, the Hybrid L, and the Hybrid S. Yeah, it's about as clear as something that's not very clear. But what's pretty straightforward are the prices. Those are the prices right there. And you know what? It's pretty good value for money compared to the rivals. Those are more affordable prices than, say, a Sportage. Now, let's talk standard features. Now, all Subaru Foresters get that top screen, that little one at the top there. They get that 8-inch media screen there. They get tinted rear glass. They get LED headlights and LED running lights. They get dual zone climate control. They get this, a proximity key, and they get push button start. That is really good value. Did you know that most of the rivals don't start adding a lot of that stuff until you get higher in the range? So yeah, great value. Now, if you want leather seats like these, these, you need to step up to the top of the range 2.5iS. That's this car. The rest of the Foresters come with fabric seats. If you want heated seats, you only need to step up to the second car above the entry car. That's the 2.5iL, and you get these heated seats for the front and passenger seat in the front as well. Stuff like sat nav, power sunroof, all that type of stuff, they come in as you go higher up through the range. The Subaru Forester doesn't just look like it's practical, it really is practical. Look at the size of that doorway. I mean, you could just walk straight in there. Yeah, sure, the interior is a bit busy looking, but it's very practical. Look how much legroom I've got. I'm 191 centimeters tall, and that seats in my driving position. It's very good. Now there are cup holders in here, 2 there, 2 in the front on all Subaru Foresters. And look at these door pockets, they're massive. There's also directional air vents on all Subaru Foresters and USB ports in the back too. There are map pockets galore in the backs of the seat backs. The only problem is there's nowhere to put my phone up front. It's a bigger phone and the space under the dashboard is not really large enough to fit it. There's also no wireless charging either. That's a bit of a fail. Do you want to see the boot? Let's look at the boot. One of the advantages of being shaped like a shipping container is that it gives you a very big boot. Look at this. Oh no, it's not one of those, it's one of these. Yes, the Forester's boot is bigger than many of its rivals. It fits all of the CarsGuide luggage. All Foresters also get these chunky roof rails. The Forester was given the maximum 5-star ANCAP rating back in 2019. All grades come with AEB, blind spot warning, lane keeping assistance, rear cross traffic alert. Grades above the entry car also have reverse AEB and a camera system which watches you to make sure you're paying attention. Also listed under safety equipment is gesture controlled temperature adjustment. That's silly. Want to see under the bonnet? Pretty simple here. You've got a petrol engine and you've also got a hybrid system. This is the petrol engine. It's a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder. It's a boxer engine. That means the pistons don't do this. They do this. They punch out like a boxer. There are advantages to a boxer engine. The main one is that it's got a lower center of mass because it sits lower in the engine bay and that's good for handling. The other advantage is that it sounds really good. You know, you've heard of WRX before. They go brrr, and that's the sound of a boxer engine. Those are the outputs right there for both the petrol engine and also the hybrid system. Now, transmission, it's a CVT. That stands for continuously variable transmission. And look, I'm not a major fan of them, but this isn't too bad. All Subaru Foresters are all-wheel drive, and it's a very good all-wheel drive system. I know, I've looked. They also have an excellent ground clearance of 220 millimeters. Did you know the new Kia Sportage only has a ground clearance of 181 millimeters? So that all-wheel drive system with this ground clearance makes the Forester far more capable off the road than most of its rivals. That means my body is exactly 220 millimeters thick. All right, let's go for a drive. Because, you know, the driving part's pretty important too. One of the very first things that you'll notice about driving the Subaru Forester is how good the driving position is. These seats are great, they fit me, but they're also quite snug, so I feel supported. You sit at a good height, the steering wheel feels great, but the visibility is fantastic. These really tall windows in the Forester means that it's like being on a bus, and those rear windows are huge, and that's just made parking so much easier in the city. But on a road like this, it's also good for being able to see through a corner. There's no problems with visibility whatsoever. And that rear window too is pretty big. A couple of its rivals have got these really sleek rear windows and they look great from the outside, but from the inside it's like looking through Ned Kelly's helmet. The steering as well, I think steering is really important in the car. You shouldn't be thinking about it, but if you are, then they've got it wrong. The great thing about this steering is that it's so accurate, it's weighted so well, and it feels really natural. It's great steering in this car. Now let's talk about the ride. It's super comfortable. As I mentioned before, not only does it feel planted and the handling feels really good, it's one of the most comfortable mid-size SUVs I've ever driven. I've driven an Outlander and that was really uncomfortable. The Mazda CX-5 is quite firm-edged, it's quite sporty, but its suspension is quite firm. The RAV4 is a bit bouncy, but this feels, it's like a perfect combination of good handling and comfort. Wow, it's good. Now, the transmission, it's the one weakness in the way the Forester drives. Gosh, I mean, come on Subaru, you can admit you're wrong. The CVT is a terrible idea. It's called a continuously variable transmission, or CVT. And when you put your foot down, I don't know whether you can hear this, it sounds like this. And there's not much acceleration. And that's because the way the transmission works is basically like a big rubber band. And as you accelerate, the rubber band stretches. So it doesn't have cogs, it doesn't have gears. And it's really good for fuel economy, but it does nothing for acceleration. It just sort of like tears your acceleration and throws it over your shoulder, and it all disappears. So that's the one disappointing thing. I mean, bizarrely, you've got paddle shifters here, which are supposed to like go up through the gears. And what Subaru have done is they've kind of like built gears into the continuously variable transmission. And that's kind of good. It's not quite, you know, a dual clutch automatic or a regular automatic. Now we are coming up to our little off-road section. Now it's not off-road really, and look, you shouldn't be taking the Forester too far off-road. Don't go too crazy. But if you're doing gravel roads or dirt roads, then the Forester is absolutely in its element, like this here. That ground clearance is really good, 220 millimeters. It's going to get you further off the beaten track than, say, you know, the Sportage or, you know, CX-5. And there's also what's called an X mode, and there's a dial just down here and you can toggle. So look, we don't really need to use it here, but there's a snow, a dirt mode, a mud mode. So look, we might put it into dirt mode, and there we go. And that just gives you a little bit of extra traction when you're on a loose surface like this. That all-wheel drive system would also have a lot to do with that secure planted feeling. It's constantly operating, and there's a computer which is checking for any slippage. If a wheel slips, it redirects the torque to another wheel. It's seamless. It's fantastic. Now, we only had a chance to drive the petrol engine, the 2.5 litre 4-cylinder. Look, there's no worries in terms of grunt. There's plenty of grunt there. It's just the transmission, which doesn't seem to get it to the ground as well as it could. It's somewhere just here. You've got to know where it is. It's a secret trapdoor. Hang on, where is it? Not there. There, got it. Once you know where it is, you should be able to find it again. Now, Subaru says that after a combination of open and urban roads, the 2.5 litre petrol engine should be getting 7.4 litres per 100 kilometres. The hybrid system should be getting 6.7 litres per 100 kilometres. It's quite thirsty. Well, we tested it. We tested the 2.5 litre, and that's what we got right there. Now, just to close it, you just push it and there. Try finding that one again, eh? Subaru knows its customers. It knows they're adventurous people, but it also knows that they always like to have information at their fingertips. And that's pretty hard out here, sometimes when the reception's not too good. That's why Subaru's created this, a hard copy version of the internet. That way you can just open it up and find out anything you need right away. Actually, it's not a hard copy version of the internet. It's actually the service manual. It's the manual to the infotainment system. What's that? That's the service handbook. Talking of servicing, the petrol version of Forester is actually quite pricey to service. It's $2,400 over 5 years. The warranty is also 5 years. It's a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty. If you get the hybrid version, the battery is covered by an 8-year, 160,000 kilometre warranty. Not bad. Now, let's see what the weather's going to be like. Oh, adventurous. All right, time to talk scores. Now, for design, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's not particularly good looking, especially not compared to the Kia Sportage or the Mazda CX-5 or even the Toyota RAV4, but it is very practical. So for practicality, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Yep, it's shaped like a shipping container, so it's got plenty of space inside, a big boot, lots of rear legroom, giant windows, tinted windows at the back, great legroom, 9 out of 10 for practicality. Now for price and features, I'm giving it a 9 as well. The Forester is really good value for money when you look at the standard features list. Look at the prices as well, compare them with the rivals, you'll see that they are a couple of $1,000s across the board lower. 9 out of 10 for price and features. For safety, I'm giving it an 8. Subaru have always been pioneering safety systems. This has got the lot. I'd like to see all the safety systems on the entry grade, but I tell you what, the safety systems on board, all of them are fantastic. So 8 out of 10 for safety. Now, under the bonnet, for engine and transmission, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Originally, I had it as an 8, but that CVT it does nothing for the driving experience. It just brings everything down. So 7 out of 10. The engine though, that 2.5 litre petrol is excellent. Now I haven't driven the hybrid yet, so that is staying at 7 out of 10. Now for efficiency, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. That 2.5 litre petrol engine is quite thirsty, and the hybrid isn't really efficient either. 7 out of 10. For ownership, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. The 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty is pretty normal these days. The servicing costs are quite pricey though, $2,400 for that petrol engine over 5 years. That is on the pricier side, so 7 out of 10. And now finally, driving, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. It almost got a 9, but that CVT just stops it from being excellent to drive. It's great to drive, especially on gravel roads like this and on the highway as well. It feels planted, it feels secure. That all-wheel drive system is fantastic as well. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. So that gives us an overall score for the entire Subaru Forester range of 7.8 out of 10. Now, if you want to read the full review, go to carsguide.com.au and give us a like and subscribe.